Game 4 of the mini league is against someone with a name I don't play this game. Anyways, let's look at the board for a little bit here. Now, there are a few things to note about this board. We have some draw in courtyard, advisor. We also have some villages, villa and wall village, whatever. Trashing is a bit of an issue. You could open with loan, which is what I was thinking of for trashing. Perhaps something like courtyard on loan or something to trash. You don't really want to open loan silver. That can run the risk of being a little bit sad for you. And another alternative to loan is the forge, which actually I started to think about a bit more and went for that as opposed to the loan opening. So how do I get to forge? Well, I need to get $7, and I think the best way to get $7 is if I could stick a tactician down and play. Courtyard and silver is a good try, but I don't think even with the best draw you could get 7. Maybe you can. Maybe you can with the best draw, but I'm not expecting the best draw. So what I'm going to go for is courtyard silver. Looks a little bit like I'm going to play money here, and my opponent opens the same. But I'm really looking for tactician into forge, and then I can forge things at my will, really. So here I do see the courtyard, but not a lot of money up front. Just going to stick back a copper and pick up a scheme. Now the scheme is going to serve me quite well here in the early game, and you'll see how that comes into play soon. I'm also planning to go after a bunch of orchard points. At the beginning I checked 5 or 6 piles from which I would like to get orchard points from. The 2 villages, the royal carriages, the advisors, the schemes, the courtyards. Those are excellent targets for the orchard, of course. Now my opponent picks up a humble castle, presumably to take the points for the aqueduct, and it also suggests to me, after also the goal that he picked up as well, that he wants to play a more money style deck. Courtyard big money, right? That old classic. I'm okay with that, and we'll talk about that after I tell you why I buy this gold here, because I need a little bit of money to buy forge for one, and also after I forge away all of my coppers, I will need some economy to start buying advisors and villages and whatnot. So I do have my tactician now, and hopefully I can see my forge here with the tactician. Not yet, but maybe the courtyard can't find it, and it definitely will find it actually. I don't even have the forge yet. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. Never mind. But I can see all my money, and I'm going to top deck an estate because I want to pick up a forge and a royal carriage here. Royal carriage is going to be all around useful. I can use it to forge twice, to play schemes twice, to play courtyard twice maybe. And there you see where the scheme comes into play. I can use the scheme, top deck the tactician, which means now not only does the tactician give me enough money to buy a forge, but it also gives me the hand size to be able to make a nice forge play, a nice sweeping forge play. So unfortunately it came with the tactician there, but hopefully I could find it back with this royal carriage and the courtyard. I should be able to find it back, and I do find it. Now I have to make a few interesting decisions. What I eventually decide upon is to top deck the silver and to forge all my coppers and my estates into the crumbling castle. Now the reason for doing that is because I wanted a little bit of economy in this deck, a little bit of money. I say economy, but that's probably an improper use of the word, because the way I'm seeing things is that the only nice thing to do on the board, aside from forging things, is to just put a lot of money into play, a lot of golds and a few silvers. So I want to start to build up those big stacks of treasure and be able to draw lots of them and put lots of them into play. So that's why I went for the crumbling castle. It did give me a couple points from the aqueduct, which really isn't consequential, but more importantly it gave me a silver, and it can give me another silver when I forge it, or perhaps if I forge it into something else. So here I have quite a bit of money, and I'm going to pick up a villa now because of the plus buy that I will see the next time I play the villa, and I get an advisor here just for the draw, just trying to solidify things. I also get rid of my tactician and turn it into a royal carriage. So the engine is starting to take shape here. The engine is starting to take shape. I really would like to call this royal carriage on things other than this scheme. And eventually I'll get there, right? I need some actual villages, or as you'll see later, calling royal carriage on advisor is excellent because it gives me the plus actions and draws quite a bit of cards. So I think I have the deck state that I want nearly. I do have a straggling estate, but I had no worries about that because I can turn it into a courtyard at some point. And all the while, I'm thinking mostly here about my orchard points at this point in the game. So my opponent has a bit of a lead right now. So with the aqueduct into play, he can buy silvers and golds and then take the provinces in accordance with his money plan. Get the points off the aqueduct. And it helps him, you know, to stretch the points lead a little bit. However, there are other sources of VP for me, namely Orchard, but also the castles. So I'm not really too worried about him going after the provinces and money, so focus. Courtyard and money will stall out after around 5 provinces. It becomes very difficult for the courtyard money player to pick up provinces 6 through 8. So I'm not at all worried. In the meantime, I could just take points from the orchard and from whatever castles that I am able to pick up. So right now, there are a few inefficiencies that I make here in my play. So as you can see, and Mick Seanock actually pointed this out to me, as you can see, I am able to overdraw my deck by quite a few cards here, quite a few cards. I have a couple courtyards in the deck, so this is what, an overdraw of 4 cards. And what I should be doing is, if you can overdraw, you should put payload into your deck, meaning things that you want to play, right? You can draw lots now. Well, what are you drawing for? To get to play the nice things, right? Your merchant guilds, your goons. On this board really is just money. There's nothing else to play except lots and lots of golds. However, here the only headway I make in picking up more money is buying a villa. And I do pick up another advisor and another courtyard. Now in a different style deck, as I've talked about before, you might want a little bit of redundancy in your draw just because of the, you know, randomness of the game. You might not see your draw cards up front if you only have a X number of them. But with the schemes in the deck here, the schemes are real heroes because you can make sure you kick off every single turn with the scheme. So you don't have to worry about the randomness of the deck. You can stack your deck with the scheme, takes that completely out of the equation. So really you should be building a lot more tightly, a lot more close to the line, meaning if you shouldn't be overdrawing by any amount, really. There's no real reward for overdrawing here aside from top decking something with the courtyard. So still tons and tons of overdraw. I could play 2 more courtyards and do something with it, but there's nothing else to draw. Again, another sign that I should be putting payload into the deck. What I wanted to do at that point, I was looking for something like 11, so I can pick up a gold and then a small castle, just to make picking up the small castle a bit more points off the aqueduct, and I'll have the gold later as part of my payload. Payload makes it sound like a bomb, like I'm building this deck to drop this payload, you know, like there's a plane flying overhead and it just... Anyways, so at this point my opponent has 4 provinces and a lot of points off the aqueduct to go with it. He also has a humble castle, so that's something I need to keep in mind. Perhaps he has intentions of going after the castles. I have to keep an eye on him. Make sure he doesn't take too many castles out from under me because I will need them to score later on in the game. But all in all, I think things are fairly under control here. At this point I have points for 3 schemes, 3 advisors, 3 villas. Villas are quite key because they give me the plus buy. Not the courtyards, but the royal carriages I do have points for. and I have a walled village, so I should be able to pick up 24 points off this orchard, no problem in this game. So I'm not worried there. Seem to have things under control. At this point, the forge doesn't really do too much, but it is going to be a useful player in the end game when we get to it. So here I finally get up to 11, which is where I wanted to go. And if I was smart and thinking, I would have remembered that after the small castle is the spooky castle. Spooky castle gets me a gold, which I bought anyway. And it also makes my opponent discard, or not discard, but go down to 3 cards in hand, which really hurts a money player. Fortunately, my opponent was not able to buy Spooky Castle himself and make me discard, so I am definitely going to pick it up this turn. The Haunted Castle, that is, that's the proper name for it, right? It's not called Spooky Castle. It's definitely going to pick up the Haunted Castle as points. It gives me a gold. I'm overdrawing by a ton. I can more than accommodate the few stop cards in my deck. Look at this massive amount of overdraw. I really should have more payload. Really should have more payload. I mean, it's nice to be able to top deck an advisor, but I don't have to do it with all the schemes. I don't have to do it with the courtyard if the scheme is doing it for me, right? I did have the option here of trashing the small castle, but I really decided just to hold on to it. It might be more useful to pick up bigger castles later on. And if not, well, you know, it's 2 points, right? And it might be worth more if I get the King's Castle. So there goes the Spooky Castle, and with 8, I'm going to just pick up, I think, more castles. Yeah, the Opulent Castle. Just start to score. My opponent is at 4 provinces. I don't want to be too behind. You know, he might get to 5 and 6 very quickly. He might start buying castles, but now the castles, I've made it so that they are as expensive as provinces. So it is just as difficult for him to go after the castles at this point in the game. So, really, just one-way traffic at this point. I feel I just need to catch up on the points to make the deal complete, and I will do that by picking up the remaining castles. That's my plan anyway. Then, after the castles are finished, I could go after orchard points or provinces or whatever. I don't really see my opponent doing anything else except picking up provinces once in a while, whereas I have lot more freedom to do whatever I want. Castles, duchies, provinces, orchards. Even I could fetch the last 3 points off the aqueduct here if I like. Opulent Castle, I quite like here. I'm finally able to make somewhat decent use of Opulent Castle. It'll be worth quite a bit of coins with the kind of draw that I have in my deck. I played this turn a little bit stupid. I could have called the Royal Carriage on the courtyard and drawn more, but I just blanked out for whatever reason. I do pick up a duchy with the Sprawling Castle and just a little bit more draw. I think that courtyard is my 3rd courtyard, so it gets me the orchard points and another scheme. And I think that should be enough draw for what I want to do for the rest of the game, especially with the schemes, top deck and stuff. I really didn't need to be this conservative. So anyway, that's a point for you, right? Point for you to learn and to take away from this game. So eventually, my opponent does decide to resign. I don't think it was premature. He seemed to be in the back, especially after I make my play here. I did forge gold and silver into a grand castle, and I would have picked up King's Castle, and I had quite a bit of green cards to show for my grand castle. So he does resign in short order. Perhaps I should have played out a little bit because he asked me if I wanted him to resign or not. I should have said maybe. I should have said no, just to make sure I could finish our game properly. We're all about the end game practice here today, right? But oh well, I think I can manage it from here, right? I think I can manage it from here. At the end of this turn, I would have a points lead and then could go after the provinces with my forge and whatnot. So, anyways, this is how game 4 from the mini league ends. So far we are 4-4, which is whatever. Like, we don't really care about the score, right? We care about making good end game plays here. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next game.